There's another story, I can call it that Herodotus tells us in histories that I found so interesting, and I found it interesting not only for how it is told, but also looking at what is happening right now and trying to compare and contrast. And you will find this, I think you will also find this so interesting. Now, today in 2022, the time I'm recording this video, we have Iran and we have Greece, and maybe I can throw in there Macedonia or the countries around there. Now, these two societies have been around for thousands of years. Of course, there have been so many changes and they've evolved in so many ways. But taking a snapshot today and a snapshot 2000 years ago, the time that Herodotus describes them, because then we have still Greece and Macedonia and Persia then. Today we know that Persia was in the region that is Iran today. So Persia is basically what became Iran in the long term. Now, if you take a snapshot today of the cultural state of Iran, and you take a snapshot of Persia, of Iran and Greece and Macedonia and those countries that are around that region today, and then you look at the snapshot that Herodotus gives us of these two societies 2000 years ago, they've done this, and I'm going to explain how. Like, where Persia was is where Iran is today, and where Greece was is where like it has they've changed positions culturally speaking. Now, and has nothing to do with development of who has evolved to be better or worse. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the cultural differences. Now, Herodotus tells us that at some point, when Darius was the king of Persia, he had this campaign going on in Europe under Megabesus, trying to bring different societies and countries under the control of Persia. And one of the countries he targeted was Macedonia. Now, he didn't send an army to Macedonia. He didn't even send Megabesus. Megabesus picked some people, a big group of people, like Herodotus calls it an embassy. And these people traveled to Macedonia, and they went and they met the king of Macedonia then, a guy who was known as Amintas. Now, Amintas turns out there is Amintas who was, I think, an uncle to Alexander the Great, but that's a different Amintas. I was trying to find out whether it's the same, but it's not. And this Amintas had a son who was called Alexander. I tried to find out whether it's not the Alexander the Great, it's a different Alexander. Now, they go to Amintas and they tell him, the king of Persia, Darius, demands that you give him earth and water, which was basically you surrender without war. And Amintas knew that the Persians had a huge army, and he didn't see that there was a chance of the Macedonians overcoming that army, and he had no option but to say, yeah, okay, I accept, we surrender as Macedonia to the Persians. Now, when they arrive in Macedonia, they pass him this message. During that, after he had basically surrendered Macedonia to the Persians, he organized a party for this embassy, as Herodotus calls it, these emissaries, these people who had been sent by Persia, by Darius. It was a big group that came to represent Persia. So he organizes a big party for them, and they start eating and drinking. And at some point, the Persians tell Amintas, I'll read what Herodotus has written down as the conversation that went on. They tell Amintas, dear Macedonians, we Persians have a custom when we make a great feast, to bring with us to the board our wives and concubines, and to make them sit beside us. Now then, as thou hast received us so kindly, and feasted us so handsomely, and gave us moreover earth and water to King Darius, do also after our custom in this matter. So they basically told him, you've been kind, you've hosted us, you've given us food and drinks, and we are grateful. But as you know, we Persians, when we feast with our women around on the table. We eat with them. We basically intermingle and have fun, and we want you to do that for us. Where are the women on this table? It happens that during that time, the Greek society, it was kind of like it was not acceptable that women and men would mingle. That women and men used to sit even during parties. Women will be separate, men separate. That was the culture of the Macedonians and to a larger extent the Greek tribes. So Amintas answered, "Oh, Persians, we have no such custom as this. But with us, men and women are kept separate. For us, Macedonians, men and women are always separated. We don't mingle. Nevertheless, since you are now our lords and wish it to be the case in this party, basically, this also shall be granted to you." So Amentas explains to them that here in Macedonia, men and women don't intermingle. Men sit separate, women separate. But now, because you have become our lords, is basically we don't have any other option but to do what you want us to do. So Amintas makes arrangements, and women, young women, beautiful women are brought. And initially they are made to sit separate on the table, not with the Persians. And then the Persians tell the king, no. In our country, we sit with them besides us. That's how we sit. We just mingle. They don't sit aside. And the king is so disturbed, and not only him, but the rest of the Macedonians in the room. They are so disturbed because that was something that was not acceptable in their society, that men and women, especially strangers, will sit with their women like that. So they are so, Herodotus says they are sorely grieved, like it's so disturbing to them. But they fear the Persians because they know if they don't do what the Persians want them to do, then the Persians will declare war on them, and that's not what they want. So they decide, Amintas decides, okay, this is very painful for us, but I'm going to do that. So he tells the women, just sit with them, mingle with them. So they sit next to these Persian men, and the Persian men are putting their hands around them, and Herodotus tells us like one of them even kisses one of the ladies, and that was like it was so offensive to the Macedonians that at that point some of them were feeling like, even if the Persians are so powerful, we can't let them do this to our women. And one of those who was so offended and decided something has to be done was Aminta's son, a guy known as Alexander. Alexander was so disturbed, and he goes to the father. The father is so fearful of the Persians, and he tells the father, "Dad, I know you are disturbed with the scene that you are seeing here, and I'm requesting you to leave so that you don't continue seeing these terrible scene of strange men sitting with our women and touching them inappropriately." So Amintas left, but he sensed that Alexander was up to something, and he told him, "I've left, but don't do anything stupid. Don't do something that is going to ruin us." And Alexander tells the dad, don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid." But that's exactly what he was going to do. So Amintas leaves the room. Alexander, the son, becomes the host of the Persians, and he tells the Persians, at some point he tells them, "You know what,
because we've given you these women, they are yours for this party. But I'm requesting you to let them go and take bath, shower, change clothes, and look even better for you guys. And the Persians are like, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea. So the ladies leave. And then a moment later, the ladies come back and they sit next to every Persian man. And what this Persian did not notice, they were so drunk. Herodotus tells us that at that point they were so drunk. They had drank a lot of wine. They were drunk, so they could not see properly or understand what was going around them properly. What they did not notice is that the women who came back were not the women who left. In fact, these were not women. They were young men from the Macedonians, men who were dressed like women, and then they came sat next to them. And they were still marrying and having fun. And then Alexander gave a signal. Of course, he had had a conversation with these guys, and they all of them drew knives and they stabbed these Persians and killed them. So if the Persians had not requested or basically demanded that the Greeks, the Macedonians, give them their women to sit with, the Macedonians had already surrendered. But they went ahead and offended them by doing what the Macedonians never did, which was normal in Persia. Like in Persia, the Persians tell them it was normal to mingle with women during parties and drink together, eat together. But that was not the case in Macedonia. Now, this is interesting because today, in Persia, in Iran, sorry, it's not Persia really, but yeah, in Iran, women and men don't mingle. They are separated during ceremonies, whatever. Women sit aside, men aside. Today in Macedonia and Greece and those countries that we will assume were part of the ancient Macedonia, women and men mingle freely. It's no big deal. It's the norm. So that's what I found interesting from that story. Anyways, so what happens after Alexander had killed the Persians? Nothing happened really, because the Darius never knew whether those guys reached Macedonia. Alexander made sure that that information never leaked outside, that those guys reached Macedonia. So there was no information coming back to him that these guys reached Macedonia. So he never got to know that these guys, he didn't know, maybe they died on the way, they were killed on the way, or they died. He didn't know where they went. So they just disappeared like that. Yeah, so that's what happened.